In the last 24 hours, the IDF once again moved into the city of Khan Yunis, striking the Hamas terrorists attempting to reorganize themselves in the city, which the IDF cleared and withdrew from 3 months ago. Further south, the IDF acted to prevent Hamas terrorists from stealing shipments of humanitarian aid coming through the Rafah border crossing with Egypt. Meanwhile, security operations in Judea and Samaria continued as the commander of the military wing of Hamas in Tulkarem was eliminated and an attempt to kidnap Israelis was broken up and a squad of terrorists were arrested. In Yemen, the fires are still burning at the port of Judea in western Yemen, although the Houthis claim that the port is back in full operation. Finally, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in Washington, D.C. and is set to address the Congress this week. Let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on the 291st day of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and all of its terrorist proxies in Yemen, Iraq, and Syria. To start with the news out of the Gaza Strip, the IDF was compelled to once again enter the city of Khan Yunis on Monday morning to deal with an attempt by Hamas to reorganize its forces in that city. This is happening even as negotiations continue over a deal to reach a ceasefire, as well as the return of the Israeli hostages from the Gaza Strip back to Israel. The IDF withdrew from Khan Yunis 3 months ago after a campaign to eliminate the Hamas formations in that city, but Hamas managed to re-enter the city in force and had begun to set up new military and civil administration there. So the 98th Division re-entered the city under the cover of tank and artillery support, but not before evacuation notices were sent out to the population in order to minimize civilian casualties. Large numbers of Gazan civilians were observed leaving the city in the direction of the El Mawasi camp to the west. The elite IDF units then entered the city to begin the attack on Hamas positions, and they were quickly reinforced by other units. There is a plan to send larger formations into that city in the coming days to carry out this raid, which is part of Phase 3 of the fighting. This third phase of fighting will be characterized by raids to break up Hamas attempts to reinstitute itself in areas that have already been cleared of major military formations. The raid into Khan Yunis is expected to last for several weeks as the IDF searches for terrorist holdouts and launch sites for rockets, which are once again being fired into Israel from this city. This includes a barrage of 20 rockets that was fired into the western Negev last month in the south of Israel by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad organization. Other targets of the operation include command and control centers, terrorist concentrations, and military production facilities, which are often set up near the shelters of the displaced. Even as the IDF keeps up the military pressure on Hamas, there continue to be negotiations for a deal to release the remaining Israeli hostages, and we will keep you updated on these developments moving forward. Apart from the renewed fighting in Khan Yunis, operational activity continues in Rafah, but on a smaller scale. The IDF is focused on the 4 neighborhoods in the city that were the home ground for the Hamas brigades. In recent days, soldiers who have been on the front lines for many weeks have been rotated out and replaced by fresh units. The overall number of IDF soldiers deployed in Rafah has also been reduced, with 2 brigade combat teams of the 162nd Division withdrawn. The Givati and Nahal brigades have also rotated units in and out of the city as control of the key neighborhoods has been solidified and security for the remaining troops has increased. The only neighborhood of Rafah where intense fighting continues is the Tel El Sultan neighborhood near the coast, which was captured by the 401st Armored Brigade about 2 months ago at the beginning of the operation in Rafah. Even there, the battle is beginning to taper down with fewer and fewer engagements every day. One point of friction remains at a high intensity, and that is the trucks filled with humanitarian aid. These trucks are often targeted by Hamas terrorists and criminal gangs who want to steal this aid, which is meant to be distributed to the civilian population. In the last month, the Martyrs Brigade has reported eliminating over 150 armed men who tried to hijack these trucks, seizing hundreds of weapons in the process. Meanwhile, Hamas tunnels and smuggling tunnels continue to be discovered and demolished almost every day, with large amounts of weapons and ammunition, military equipment, and intelligence materials captured. As previously reported, the IDF is holding the Rafah crossing and the Philadelphia corridor, sending out the combat engineer teams to systematically search for and demolish these tunnels. Great progress is being made, but much work remains to be done. Another division that operates in Gaza is the 252nd Reserve Division, which in recent days received responsibility for the Netzer corridor from Division 99, and its forces are deployed in phased manner in the new outposts between the border near Kibbutz Be'eri and the beach south of Gaza City. A total of 4 divisional headquarters are now operating in the Gaza Strip, managing the fighting. Meanwhile, the Martyrs Brigade's combat team, which continues to operate in Rafah, raided a school near the humanitarian zone where Hamas terrorists had attempted to set up a base of operations. In the course of the raid, the IDF soldiers discovered tunnel shafts entrances in the schoolyard, through which the terrorists were moving weapons and supplies to try and establish a fighting position to attack the IDF troops in the area and raid humanitarian aid trucks. So please continue to spread the truth, share, and follow us. And if you'd like to receive additional videos like this one, please consider making a financial donation so that we can produce content about what is happening in Israel. You can donate through the link at the bottom of the screen, or go to our website at www.tbn.org/Israel. Switching our focus to Judea and Samaria, reports in Palestinian media portals indicate that the IDF has successfully eliminated Asraf Nafe, the commander of the Hamas military units in the city of Tulkarem, north of Jerusalem. Another terrorist leader, al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade's commander, Muhammad Abu Abadu, was also eliminated. According to Israeli security forces, those 2 evil men and 3 of their assistants were taken out in a drone strike this week. The strike was the final act in an operation which involved weeks of close surveillance of these men, their movements, and their activities. When the moment came that they were together and close to their hideout, the order was given to fire the missile which ended their terrorist careers. Elsewhere, security forces arrested 2 residents of the Akat Jabal refugee camp near Jericho on suspicion that they were part of a plot to kidnap soldiers and civilians. Following these arrests, the Shin Bet revealed that these 2 men had recruited others to assist them in the plot, dug a hole near the home of one of them in order to hide the Israelis they planned to kidnap, and purchased weapons and other materials they would need to carry out their plans. These materials included military-style clothing, radios, and weapons, all of which were seized at the time of the arrests, which were conducted by the Duvdevan fighters of the IDF and the Gideon unit. So please keep spreading the truth, share and follow us, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Take a minute and click the follow button so that we can bring you current and detailed content about what is happening in Israel. Please stay tuned on Saturday for the latest episode of My State, where we will take a look at the possibility that we will soon be facing another front from the Mediterranean Sea. Now back to the news. In the last 24 hours, a barrage of 10 rockets was fired at the Moshav Tzuriel near Ma'alot, resulting in damage but no casualties in the north of Israel. Following this attack, the Israeli Air Force began an intense bombardment of Hezbollah positions all over southern Lebanon. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to monitor the situation on Israel's northern border and keep you updated. In Yemen, the firefighters teams are still trying to bring the flames at the fuel storage tanks in the port city of Judea under control. The fires were started by an Israeli airstrike on Saturday, which also did massive damage to the port's loading and unloading infrastructure. The strikes were in response to the UAV attack that was launched by the Houthi rebels, which control most of Yemen, including the city of Judea, which killed 1 Israeli civilian and wounded several others in Tel Aviv on Friday morning. The fuel depot is managed by the Yemeni oil company, which announced yesterday that 6 of those killed in the attack were its employees. Despite the reports of severe damage to the port, in the Yemeni news agency Saba, the body responsible for Yemen's ports was quoted as saying that the port of Judea is operating at full capacity. One of the people in charge at the port, Nasser el-Nasiri, said that they are working around the clock to receive all the ships and there is no concern when it comes to the supply chain of the food and medicine into Judea. This is an apparent attempt to paint the port as purely civilian facility, but this is a lie. Israel has been aware for some time that this port is controlled by the Houthis and used to smuggle weapons from Iran into the country, where these weapons are fired at Israel as well as international shippings in the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea. The port was targeted in order to disrupt these terrorist operations. We must conclude this report with some sad news. The IDF announced on Monday that 2 Israeli hostages were amongst those kidnapped on October 7th have been confirmed to be dead. In a statement on the matter, the IDF spokesperson's office declared that the IDF representatives informed today the families of Alex Danzig and Zeev Buchstab, who were brutally abducted to the Gaza Strip, that they are no longer alive and their bodies are being held by the terrorist organization Hamas. Yogev was the partner of Rimon Kirsch, who was kidnapped together with him from Kibbutz Nirim and released from captivity in a previous hostage deal. She is remembered for giving a harsh look at the Hamas terrorists who handed her over to the Red Cross. At a meeting with the families of the hostages overnight between Monday and Tuesday at the hotel where he is staying in Washington, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told the participants, "We are determined to return them all. The conditions to return them are ripe for the simple reason that we are putting very strong pressure on Hamas. We see a certain change, and I think that this change will continue to grow." Netanyahu expressed grief over the deaths in captivity of Alex Danzig and Zeev Buchstab in the shadow of the criticism leveled at him that they could have been saved if a deal had been struck. He told the families he met with that the trip gives us an opportunity to bring to the American representatives and the American people the importance of their support for the efforts we are making together with them to bring about the release of all the hostages, both the living and the dead. We are determined to bring them all back. We intend to do it. This is the purpose of this war. So please continue to spread the truth. This is a battle between good and evil, between deception and lies and the truth. So let's unite in standing and sharing the truth and in praying. Let's pray for the hostages to be reunited with their loved ones in Israel. Let's pray for all the civilians that are affected by these terrorist groups in this region. Let's pray for the IDF soldiers that are fighting evil every day, that they will win. And let's pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.